Good evening. Good evening, friends. I hope this robe is acting as a little windbreak for the microphone, because it's quite windy, which is why I've come down here. It's not windy up. It's just into the forest. It's not so windy, and there's more mosquitoes, so I thought I'd make the most of this nice evening down here on the beach, not knowing really what was going on here. I've just come down from the temple, so I'm going to continue with the some of these questions that I was looking at. Once again, hello friends, and welcome to here on the beach, where I stay, where I live. Not literally on this beach, but just behind you, up the steps there in the forest. And whilst I was sweeping this afternoon, I thought of something and then double checked yesterday when I was talking about hope, and I hope I didn't offend too many hopeful people with my rather negative opinion on the whole idea of hope, because I do rather think it's a rather silly thing. Maybe I'm taking the definition of it too literally, but it's kind of contrary to Buddhist teachings, the idea of hope, just to sum up what I was saying yesterday if you didn't see it. And the closest word I could find to describe the word hope, or translate the word hope into Pali, was, excuse me, I have to alter my position slightly. One has to sit full lotus on this rock, because otherwise your ankles are on the very hard rock. Well, it's not so much as hard, it's very spiky. I think I've told you that before. I'm repeating myself now, it's my age. But this is anicca. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. Right, sorry, I'll carry on, I'll get on with it now. We can take that all as by way of an introduction. Now I am sitting comfortably. And I hope you are also. I hope the wind isn't too distracting and the sea isn't too much of a distraction, and you are able to hear me clearly, and we can talk about the Dharma, at least answer some questions or talk about some comments and questions that I've received. So this word in Pali, closest one can find to for hope, is apeka, and it was ringing some bells. I kept thinking, well, this sounds like another word. What is the other word? And of course, the other word is upekha, spelt the same way. A-P-E-K-K-H-A, with a line across the top. A line across an A means ah, as opposed to ah. Drawn out longer, and ah. Upekha is U-P-K-K-H-A, also with a line. Upekha. Upekha is translated into English as equanimity, and it's the seventh factor of the 7 factors of enlightenment. It is quite windy, isn't it? I hope this windbreak thing is working like one of those fluffy microphones you see on the filming sets. I've seen a lot of filming sets, because in India they're all over the place making Bollywood movies. Whenever you go to anywhere picturesque, you see these very overdone up, glamorous looking film stars and then many foreigners who get roped in for all of the extra parts, and that's often how they fund their existence in that country. Foreigners, I mean. Sorry, as a side. And upekha, being the 7th factor of enlightenment, is very important. And also, I think the 10th of the 10 paramis, perfections in life, these qualities we develop through many lifetimes to become perfected in order to become enlightened eventually. There are 10 of those, which I won't list completely, or all the 7 factors of enlightenment just now. The point being, upekkha is equanimous. It's really serenity. It's taking everything in your stride, you know, things you really like. You understand that you like them, but you don't become attached. Things that you really don't like, you understand that you don't really like them, but you have no aversion to them. But essentially it is this undistracted, not uncaring and not unresponsive, but an air of calmness about your response, and thoughtful response, wise response. And this word equanimity best describes this word upekkha. Now, any word that usually in Pali begins with a is usually an, means un or not. So really, upekkha is like unequanimous or not equanimous. Like subha means beautiful, asubha means unbeautiful or not beautiful. Upekkha means equanimous. Upekkha means the opposite of equanimous. So there's a very clear reason why hope isn't really a part of Buddhism, or something we strive to attain to, whereas we do strive to attain to equanimity. So I'll get on with the first question, shall I? In Buddhism, is there a form of confession like Christianity? Yes, kind of. But we're not asking for absolution or a penitence, a punishment from God or the priest. We are reflecting by confessing our wrongdoings in either acts of body or speech or mind. We're confessing to either another monk or a group of monks. In the case of lay people, this is done in 2 ways. And in neither way to receive admonishment, just acknowledgement of your reflection that you have made a mistake in the past, and it is accepted that that is then your determination as to not make that mistake in the future of any acts of body, speech and mind. You don't have to go and count 15 Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sammasambuddhasas on your rosary beads, or 150 or 108 like you would with Hail Marys on a rosary bead. There are no punishments, there are no forgive me Father for I have sinned. You really just address the Bhikkhu or the Bhikkhu Sangha. So the way it would be done, and also on some occasions monks would do it this way too. One bows, lowers the head, and would say these Pali words, this short Pali verse. This is one method. You would say, O Kassa, Ahang Bhante, or if it's one monk, as opposed to one monk, that would be venerable, that's Bhante. If it's a group of monks, it would be O Kassa, Ahang Bhante Sangho, meaning the Sangha, the group of monks. So you say, O Kassa, Ahang Bhante Sangho, Dwaratayena Katam Sabama Padadam Kamatame Bhante, which is asking for forgiveness of any acts of body, speech and mind that you may have done. And you repeat this 3 times by saying Dutiyampi, the Hang Bhante, Okasa, ahang bante dwarata yena katam sabama padadam kamata me bante tatyampi dwarata yena katam sabama padadam kamata me bante. This is one way. And also in the chanting at the end of the recollection of the triple gem, the homage to the Buddha, the Dharma and the Sangha, the group, including the monks, bow. This is in the direction of the Buddha, Rupa, the statue, if you like, your equivalent of the altar, let's say. And we, again, we make this determination 3 times, but this time we make this determination to the Buddha, to the Dharma and the Sangha. At the end of each recollection, reflection, or homage to. We pay homage to the Buddha and then reflect on the qualities, and then we confess to the Buddha. The same to the Dharma and then the Sangha. When we bow with our head on the floor between our hands and we say Kayena wacha wachetasawa Buddhe kukumam pakatam mayayam Buddho patikan hatu vachantem kalantare samwaritum wa Buddhe. And then with Dhamme, Dhammo, and then Sanghe and Sangho 3 times. So this is confession, but where it's very different again, because we have no worship, gods, or praying or belief, we are reminding ourselves and making this determination. Pali word for determination is adhitthana. So we're not openly saying this as that we're making an adhitthana, it is understood. And then the monks themselves at the Patimokkha, prior to the recitation of the 227 rules, sorry I keep fiddling, I'm worried that you're not hearing because of the wind, but it should be alright, I'll try to just get on. We also have just for a bhikkhu to a more senior bhikkhu, and also a more senior bhikkhu to a junior bhikkhu, we confess any of the confessable mistakes we may have made of body, speech and mind by naming the categories, because we categorize all offences, and we simply just take turns and confess it to each other, again with a little Pali word. It's called patidesana, this procedure, and we say that's not really for lay people, so I won't say what we say exactly then. It's in Pali anyway, but we don't normally. You're just basically saying, I did this wrong, and they say, well, did you see, are you aware that you did this wrong? And you say yes. They say, well, would you determine not to do it again? And you say yes. And that's it, end of that. So that is confession. So thank you for that question. But it is, in your question, you say a form of confession like Christianity, it is a bit different. Because in Christianity, you are really expecting through your faith in a God, a higher power, for your sins to be absolved. Now, we're not getting rid of any bad karma. We can't be forgiven. If we've done something bad, it's still there. That's it. It remains there, bad. You cannot undo what you've done in Buddhism. In Christianity, you can be forgiven. Now, you can be forgiven, but in a different way in Buddhism. It's okay, it's in the past. Which brings me on to the next question, really. I think it's probably from the same person by the sounds of it, otherwise it's a big coincidence, because I don't put these in any particular order. I did a lot of bad things in the past. Some of them are just stupid, but there are mistakes that can be considered as crimes. What mindset should I have towards these mistakes? The mindset you should have towards those mistakes are that they are in the past. Now, I'm not speaking of any particular crimes, and I don't want to know what what may have been done. If you feel it appropriate to address a situation you may have done in the past by going to relevant authorities, and this would go for anyone, if we've done something like that and we feel that it would help someone else, it's never going to change what you've done. Like I said before, karma is karma. When you've acted anything bad it's there. It's like karma is like a bank account. It builds up and up and up. Good karma, and so does bad karma. And the idea is to build up a lot more good than bad. So one way the Buddha illustrated this was, if you put some salt in a glass of water, the water will be salty, taste salty. So the salt being bad karma, the water being good karma. But if you put some salt in the river Ganges, it would not be noticeable. The salt being bad karma, the river Ganges being good karma. So this analogy explains that if you do so much good, the bad karma isn't so bad. It outweighs the effect. So, what was I saying? So yes, I mean, if there's something that you could do to, it's obviously, for an example, let me take a crazy example. If you'd murdered someone and then someone else is in prison because they've been accused of it, but you knew it was you, then I think it would be appropriate to go and tell the authorities, hey, no, it wasn't this guy, it was me, and swap places. But this is up to you. It still wouldn't make any difference to the bad karma you have done, but you'd be doing some good karmic action to help address the balance. Does that make sense? So, but in terms of minds, the way you think, your mindset, for little things, for big things, for any mistakes we've made in the past of body, speech and mind, they are in the past. We cannot revisit the past, we cannot go back, we cannot undo what has been done. It's like that, as we can't go into the future either. We're here in the present moment. So don't dwell on it, don't think about it. If there's nothing you can do about it, leave it there, leave it alone. Leave it where it belongs, in the past. Okay, this is next is quite long, from the same subscriber, I think, because it's kind of related again, but it's a nice long question for probably we'll see how it goes time wise. Oh, I didn't look, did I? Anyway, it'll get dark, I'll know when I've been talking too long. And this is another very long question, so I'm going to get on to this next one. One of those. How is it possible not to masturbate? Is basically as important as cleaning your nose, it says. This is the question. Well, the subscriber is asking about masturbation. How is it possible not to do that? You know, if you watch a lot more of my videos, there are talks about dealing with sexual desire, but really it's much more than that. It's nothing to do with the particular act in itself. This goes for all of our sensual desires. I said a bit earlier, a minute ago, I said sexual desire, not to be mixed up with sensual desire. Sensual desire covers all desires, like the desire to have a cigarette or an alcoholic drink, or even the desire to have a Coca-Cola or a packet of chips. You know, these are sensual desires that we crave, we then gratify, and through those points on the 12 links of dependent origination, we build up this addiction, this craving. So we think we want to do something, and through past experience we know the experience is pleasurable, and we want to experience that feeling again. We attach to things in the past and cling to things in the past, but it's not the things we're clinging to or attaching to, it is the feeling we get, and the feeling comes after contact. So something we like, we remember as giving us pleasure, so we get it, take it, do it, have it, drink it, smoke it, enact it, whatever, and it gives us pleasure. This is contact through seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, or feeling. We then experience mental formations, recognition of pleasure or temporary satisfaction, and this then builds craving or in the steps, it's bhavana, so birth into craving. But put simply, it goes into the future of craving, wanting to do this again. But the next time you do it, this is what we learn, is that it's not quite good enough. You need to do a little bit more. Now this may be a very gradual increase or a very quick increase. For instance, if you took some drug like heroin or cocaine or some powerful narcotic like this, you may find yourself hooked into addiction very quickly because the effect on you is so dramatic and presumably pleasurable. You want that again, but next time you need a bit more and a bit more, and this is addiction. And what you're asking is the same. So I did respond. I've usually responded to most of these questions. My answer was simply subscriber to the subscriber was, well, actually I think you'll find biologically these are not the same at all. Comparing this to cleaning your nose, I mean, it bears no relevance. One cleans your nose, blows your nose, as one cleans your ears or something, as a matter of necessity, in order to be hygienic, to not get illnesses, whereas one drinks alcohol, takes drugs out of pure sensual gratification, which we soon find with the development of wisdom, panya, that these sensual desires are insatiable, unsatisfiable. They just lead to more and more craving. And that's the whole point of understanding and really developing wisdom, the knowledge of these 12 links of dependent origination, or at least just the nature of wanting and then the development of craving as a result of that. Even something as simple as scratching an itch makes you want to scratch another itch. If you don't scratch it, it will just go away. So subscribers, stop scratching that itch, and you'll find with time, maybe difficult at first, with time the itch will go away. I hope that answers your question. Okay, I'll read this question in full. So many thanks for your sharing Dharma teaching. Last time, when I increased regular guided meditations, I did recognize that doing meditation without guidance, it seemed almost impossible, not possible. Please, can you advise? Okay, guided meditations, and each Friday now at 6 o'clock there will be a new guided meditation. All things being, what was I going to say there, equal? Well, hopefully, we never know. I may be dead tomorrow. It's only Tuesday, I think, or Wednesday, who knows. But yes, I'll try and do guided meditations. These are good if you are, whether you're a beginner or an advanced meditator, but one has to look at them as a support to meditation. Guided meditations, and you know, there's probably differences of opinion on this, but for me, guided meditations are like stabilizers when you're learning to ride a bicycle, or like the armbands, blow up air things, or rubber ring one would use when one's learning to swim. And you practice, you get confidence, you get a balance, you get a feel for it, and then one day you take the stabilizers or the water wings, the armbands, the rubber ring, you take them away, or your father takes the stabilizers away, but he may give you a little guidance, hold the bicycle a little bit, or the swimming instructor may just hold you a little bit, and then one day they'll let go and you'll be swimming, or you'll be riding a bicycle. Now, I often use as an analogy to meditation this, because it's like you cannot learn to swim by reading a book, as you cannot learn to ride a bicycle by reading a book. One has to just do it. But if you need some support in the first place, that is okay. Some stabilizers with a bicycle, some water wings support with swimming, and with meditation, some guided meditation, just to point you in the direction, and also assist you bringing your attention onto the voice of another as being your guide in the meditation, which is easier to keep attention to than the object of breath in the first instance. But whilst listening to guided meditation, you can often either drift one way into more absorption into the meditation object, or indeed the other way into papancha, which is proliferation of thought, the monkey mind, and ignore the guided meditation, or ignore the meditation object and just be thinking again. But then the speaker comes in. It's often an external disturbance, which is why one shouldn't be in total sensory deprivation for meditation. Because often an external disturbance, like bong bong, bang bang rather, coming along here, just pulls you out of yourself, your thinking, brings you back down, grounds you to earth, and lets you remember, oh, I should get back to my meditation, relax my face and carry on. Always say that, relax my face and carry on, and then you'll really relax your body too, and your mind will calm, gets the opportunity to settle, and it will calm. But good question, very important question. Thank you. What do you do when something breaks, or when you need something that isn't covered by the food offerings? Ah, dana. Yes, that's a good question too. Well, you know, we don't have anything that can break. We as monks, officially, have just 8 things, 8 requisites. We have 3 robes. This lower robe, I don't know whether you can see that on there, this upper robe and an outer robe. This I'm wearing, an angsa, is an extra cloth. We have a list of extra cloths we're allowed, are allowables. But they're not really an essential part of our 8 requisites. It is necessary for sake of decency walking around the monastery, but it's not a compulsory thing that we wear this, but it's an allowable extra cloth. Like we have an extra cloth to put over our laps when we're eating to just protect our robes, as we don't get to wash them too often, and sometimes a little small extra cloth like a handkerchief, which we only make out of our old robes anyway, so it's no extra buying or getting. We cut the old robes when they're really worn out, and we've been offered new robes, into smaller and smaller. Firstly, even a sitting cloth, an asana, is another one we sit on, is an extra piece of cloth. But they all come from this original part of the 3 cloths, 3 robes. And this is 3 of our 8 requisites. Then our pindapart, our alms bowl, which is metal and very resilient and tough and strong. So it doesn't really ever break. We should be able to make that last for our entire lifetime. It has a lid and a stand, but this is material and rattan, and we make those also, and we repair them. I personally haven't made mine and wouldn't know how to, and haven't repaired it. And I personally haven't made my robes, but they were made by someone, by hand, in the same style as they're always made. And young monks will often, and in my previous, one of my previous monasteries, they have to learn to make them themselves. Then that's the 4th, the pindapart, the bowl. Then a razor for obviously shaving our head and our beard every 15 days. A water filter, so that we don't drink any live animals that may be in the water that we drink. A needle and cotton, so when these break or get a rip in them, we can repair our robes. And a belt to hold this lower robe on. So 1, 2, 3 robes, pindapart, alms bowl, needle and cotton, water filter, razor, belt. 1, 2, 3, bowl, water filter, razor, needle and cotton belt. Yes, 8. Sorry, I was double checking there. I was going 4, you know, you could see what I was doing. I was confusing myself. So that's 8 things. Now, I know you're not referring to those 8 things, subscriber. You're thinking about what happens when his phone breaks, or when his Or shoes, you know, flip-flops. We have flip-flops to walk in sometimes. Most of the time we're in bare feet. So these extra things like that generally are offered to the monastery. And if there are spare flip-flops, one would be given them as something to use and look after. Of course they're yours, no one else is going to want them after you, but you really do use them until they've absolutely never any more use out of them. And if you're lucky, you get another pair. This is really the same for phones and things, but of course they're more expensive items. So there is this opportunity for specific items. We still wouldn't want to be going around getting lots of extra additional things, because the whole point of this life is as a renunciant to let go of things. But I, as a foreigner travelling, do have to have a phone. I've had another question about this monks and phones thing again today. I'm not going to go into it again today because I've just made a whole video about that. So I hope that subscriber, it's not a subscriber probably, because he wasn't very happy that I have a phone at all. But I wouldn't have got into the country without one. Or I would have got into this country with some difficulty, but I would have, but via the countries I've come from I wouldn't have been allowed to. And also, well, you wouldn't, how would you know, how would you see me, how would you see any of these monks on YouTube if they didn't have a phone? But there we go. I agree and I don't agree. I don't want to go into that again. But say this phone breaks, then it's broken, that's it. I can't go out and buy one and it won't get repaired or anything like that, you know, I can't repair it. But we can ask a close family member if we need something. Either of the requisites, which are generally offered anyway, but if it's outside of that, say we needed a new pen and paper. So for all these people moaning about phones, it's rather what you use them for, as far as I'm concerned. If you're using them to document what you're saying or to record information, this has gone back for way before phones. Ajahn Chah was using tape recorders in the 70s, and even before that there are recordings of old monks on various forms. But before that was pens and paper. And you could write what you like down, or you could read books and read what you like, it's your choice. So it was the same principle, but you don't. You would only write about the Dharma and read about the Dharma. Like I only talk on here about the Dharma, and if I was to watch anything on here, it would be a Dharma talk by probably a monk who's got a phone also, otherwise I wouldn't be able to watch or listen to him. Or I could listen to a recording of Ajahn Chah, or Longtar Mahaboa, Buddha Dasa Bhikkhu, all of these great famous monks in the world, the Dalai Lama, regularly. Some of them have these huge and most elaborate studio setups these days and what have you to produce beautiful recordings. But this doesn't mean they're not being, in their practice, in seclusion, practicing Sila, Samadhi, Panya, and I'll go through my schedule in a minute, but I spend in the morning about, have I gone off the subject here with my rant? I'm having a rant and rave about, again, someone moaning about me using a phone. Anyway, in the morning, in my routine of the day, I have about 5 hours in the morning after the meal time in my kuti for practice only, meditation. And I usually take an hour of that to read your comments and emails and reply to them all. It doesn't take more than an hour. And in the afternoon, similarly, after, like now, after evening puja, which finishes in evening chanting, which finishes at 5 o'clock, I have then about another 5 hours before I go to sleep at night. At least 5 hours, and then I take about an hour, which is now 5 o'clock, to make or record one of these talks. Sometimes I do it the other way around. I make the recording in the morning, the talk, and look at the emails and the comments in the afternoon. So that's just 2 hours out of 10 free hours. still allows me a lot of time for practice. I usually only meditate, actually sitting formal meditation, for about 6 hours a day, sometimes 9 hours a day. And then I've still got spare time for listening to some Dharma, or maybe repairing my robes. But anyway, say this phone breaks and I needed a new one, I'm allowed to ask a family member. So you appoint a family member, but you can ask any close family member as a bhikkhu to provide you with this. You check with the abbot that that's okay to receive it, and he would say yes, and you'd receive it and you would use it as long as it was with his permission. So it could be a new pen in the olden days, or a new exercise book or notebook to write in. So that's how we get something, if it breaks, that isn't offered in the food offerings in the dana. So sorry I expanded upon that with the whole phone gate scenario. It's a bee in my bonnet that's buzzing there. I should say a mosquito in my ear. Well, that kind of explains where that expression bee in your bonnet comes from, doesn't it? Buzzing like that, it would be a little irritating. But if you had upekkha as opposed to apekkha, you'd just be serene, knowing the bee or the mosquito will eventually fly away. But if you have apekkha and you're hoping for it to go away, and it doesn't, you're only going to be disappointed. Upekkha, you'll know eventually it will go away. And even if it doesn't ever go away, either you will die or it will die. So that's the end of that. So yes, so we can ask. In my case, also, one layperson, in fact the brother of the abbot here, has kindly offered, knowing I'm a foreigner, he says, I will volunteer, I am your family member. If you need anything, ask me. So I needed some medicine for my eyes, put it that way. I have some drops I need to put in my eyes, which I normally get from the hospital, but I ran out. So actually, because it's medicine, it's one of our 4 requisites, the 4 requisites of food, alms food, clothing, robes, shelter, a kuti or something in the forest, and medicine. One of those 4. I could ask anyone for that, but I didn't. I asked this particular individual as he volunteered for this anyway. But say my phone broke, I could ask him to go and get me a new phone, and he would either say yes or no. There are also these other things which I've never had to get involved with, and I wouldn't, but there's these notes that lay people give to monasteries, which are saying they are prepared to offer something up to a certain amount if someone needs it, and I'm not quite sure how that system works, so it's not necessary. I'm very happy with my very simple 8 requisites, and when I leave here, I'll leave here with those 8 requisites, and all I'll have in addition to those will be my phone and my flip-flops, and maybe an umbrella. I take a yam, which is a monk's bag, which is another bit made out of this cloth, so it's just additional cloth or usage of cloth, and that for to keep things waterproof, like my passport and documents, which are mostly on my phone now, but the passport itself just goes inside my bowl, inside my pindapar, which is always waterproof for protection. So everything I own is I'm wearing or in my bowl. And did I say the 3rd robe's the sangati, that double thickness one which goes over our shoulder for formal occasions, or is an overcoat in cold environments, which I showed you the other day, but that's there. So yeah, I did go on a bit there, sorry about that. It's really very nice sitting here with this breeze. I just hope it's not too noisy for you. Oh, this is another good question. I'm sure there's time. Bhante, please allow me to ask a question. What is the difference between the Buddha and an arahant? You said arahat, it's fine. That's, I think, the Sanskrit word. We say in Pali arahant, in case you're wondering why I'm saying arahant. Same difference, but Pali and Sanskrit are 2 ancient Indian languages which slightly differ. And it's important, in Pali it's the Theravada tradition. So there are Pali words for certain things, and then there are Sanskrit words for certain things in the Mahayana tradition, and there's generally cross-reference, but some mean something completely different. So it's important to be to distinguish between the two. So an arahant and the Buddha. Why is only Siddhartha Gautama the Buddha and not others like arahants like Ananda, whom I mentioned the other day, his close disciple? Please explain. I'm not a Buddhist, but have curiosity. Wonderful. I welcome and love all you non-Buddhists with curiosity, because you don't have to be a Buddhist to be watching me talking, it's not about converting people, it's about talking about life, sharing my experience. Yes, I am, as a Buddhist monk, experiencing life slightly different to most people, but it's applicable to all people. It's the Dharma, it's the truth. Right, a Buddha is self-taught. In fact, in the chanting we say Sama Sambuddha, Buddha, Sambuddha. Actually, Buddha just means awakened one. So we could all be an awakened one, but this is the name that's really stuck with the Buddha. So we don't really use it for anyone else. That's kind of one reason, in order to distinguish between the Buddha and others. But the primary reason is the Buddha was pre-Buddhism. He was a bodhisattva, which meant he developed enough good qualities, those 10 parami, in previous lifetimes to attain to arahantship, nibbana, the 4th level of enlightenment, in this lifetime, in his lifetime, having perfected those paramis. But of course, because he was the first, a bodhisattva, and there was no Buddha in his realm of existence. When I say realm of existence, not only his lifetime, but even that he could be educated about. Like we're living 2,500 years after the Buddha, but he's still very eminent in society through his teachings. The Dharma is here, and he predicted it to be around for 5,000 years. After it is gone, and there are no teachings left, or this world, earthly environment has disappeared and new world systems have evolved or become, it's a whole fresh start again. But in his time there had been no Buddha's teachings for him to learn from. So he had to discover the path and learn himself. So Sama Sambuddhassa means perfectly enlightened one. Meaning, perfectly enlightened one means self-taught. He became enlightened of his own accord, by himself, with no Buddha's teachings, no Buddha sasana, no Dharma. The Dharma in terms of nature and the principle of Dharma is there, but no Dharma in terms of a previous Buddha's teachings to read scriptures of and learn. So this is a Buddha. But an arahant is an awakened one also, having achieved the 4th level of enlightenment to Nibbana, but from the results of learning from the Buddha. So in summary, a Buddha is self-taught, coming from a bodhisattva, having developed the parami in previous lifetime, 10 qualities, to attain to arahantship in his lifetime without the teachings of Buddhism, a previous Buddha, a Buddha sasana. An arahant is subsequently someone who has attained to enlightenment, the 4th stage of enlightenment, having developed those parami in previous lifetimes, but has the teachings of a Buddha to learn the path and to become enlightened. This is the difference. I hope that explains it. Oh, and here we go, here's that question. So you're a monk living in the deep jungle with internet and a cell phone. Well, the internet's very sketchy, you know. I've explained that before in videos too. You couldn't do very successfully a live stream. I can't even do a video call on WhatsApp. I have WhatsApp only for the purpose of calling my mother, really. I don't use it for anyone else. They don't use it in Thailand. They use something else called Line. But video calls aren't possible with the internet here. I have done Zoom things with England in the past, but that wasn't I don't think it worked very well. So the internet's pretty poor, and to upload one of these short videos, I hang this phone in the tree, quite high up, to get the best signal possible, and it takes 12 hours to upload it. So that's the internet. Yes, so sorry, I'm back to that question again, it keeps popping up. Yes, sorry, that's my answer. Oh, this looks very long. Our concern is... So it's now 7 minutes past 6. Is there a quick one, just in case I've not spoken? I think that should really... I should really stop there. I've got a few more questions, and I want to answer them because they're very nice. They're very nice. They're always good questions to answer. But time is getting on, and if it's over about 40 minutes rather than 12 hours, it seems to kind of know something and cut out halfway, and it can take up to sort of 15, 16, 18 hours to upload. So I want to avoid that with all this wonderful internet we apparently have here in the jungle. Previous subscriber, and so I'm a monk in the jungle with all of these things. I'm not being facetious, I'm really trying not to be, and I promise you this isn't ill will and aversion, because it's a little bit of maybe frustration with trying to offer something in way of Dharma, because you then do go on to say at the end of your question, you then find it very impossible to find deep Dharma in the world today. Let me just check that. Oh, sorry, I've got to go back to it now. I ought to read this question in full. But it's very long, so I can't. I'm missing the deeper aspects of the teaching everywhere these days. You do end up by saying metta. So I'm not sure whether you truly mean it from the way you word the rest of your comment, but nevertheless, you know, there's a lot of good, there's even a very sophisticated Dharma channel on YouTube, or maybe it's just a podcast, but it's all made with some electronic device called Deeper Dharma, which, if you really want to get into deep Dharma teachings on the suttas, that is very much your best options. Comes from the Buddhist Society of Western Australia. And there are some also very deep teachings on Dharma on YouTube. I'm certainly not referring to my own, these are very light-hearted, but maybe subscriber, you're not looking in the right place. You're going to have to bite the bullet and look at your phone, look at YouTube, and see what is out there. I do agree there is a lot of rubbish on there. Not always, it's not, I shouldn't say rubbish, I mean it's everything's for, we all have different tastes, we all like different things. There are most people watching YouTube don't want to watch Dharma talks. That's why the viewing figures of Dharma talks are minuscule, tiny levels of viewings and subscribers compared to, say, the viewings on, if I was to go around these beaches here in Thailand reviewing restaurants' food, I would have millions of subscribers and millions of viewings each and every day. They're sitting here on a rock talking about getting old, getting sick and dying, suffering, cause of suffering and the end of suffering. It doesn't really float many people's boats, so not so many. So it's each their own. Now Bang Bang, let me just finish off here. You want to go home. Bang Bang wants to go home. They're living under my kuti again. So we'll take that hint. Thank you for watching. If it's useful, please, you can use it, share it, and we must go because you smell horrible. This is one of those mangy dogs I was talking about. She's probably wanting me to... okay. Sabe sata suki hotu. May all beings be well, may all beings be happy. Bang Bang's saying goodbye, aren't you? Okay, Bang Bang, we must go. Thank you for watching. Okay.